Guys, back again for more day 3 fun. Normally, what we would be doing in class right now, just so you're like missing it even more than I am, we would be checking your graphing practice. So hopefully that's done from yesterday. If you're not sure what that looks like, it looks like this. Not asking you to do a lot there. There's just 4 problems. So please get those done and email them to me so I can check them. So yesterday, that whole graphing practice was what we were doing is we were finding the solution to a system by graphing. We graphed the points, we found the area of intersection, the point where they intersected. That was our solution. I get it. We're not always going to want to graph to solve a systems of equations. So we're going to work on the second one today, which is called the substitution method. So a different method. As we get ready for those, though, I want you to focus in on solving systems mentally. So as you can see, I've given you 3 different scenarios here. So here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. So this first one is just thinking about it. Remember, we are looking for that ordered pair. That is the solution to a system. So we are looking for that x comma y value. What is x? What is y? Where would those 2 lines intersect if we were to graph them? But again, we're not always going to want to graph them. So on number 1, we already have the first set or the first part of that solution in our x comma y. We already know that x is 5 because it tells it to us right there. So that's the first part. So 5 is the first part of our ordered pair. How in the world can you figure out what y is? Well, if we know what x is, in your head, you can simply say, okay, well, y equals whatever x is, which is 5, and then take away 7. So therefore, we know that the y value is -2 because 5 take away 7 is -2. So then we would write our answer just like this, 5 comma -2, because you'd put your x value first and then you put your y value there. There you go. You just solved a system without graphing it just by using basically mental math and a little bit of substitution. So on number 2, why don't you go ahead and give that a try? Go ahead and pause the video, go for it. Um, if you need to, set up your x comma y little video or little ordered pair here, x comma y. This time, guys, what do we know? Which one do we know first? What can you tell me? That's right. Great job. We've got y is 4. So I'm going to put a 4 in the y spot. Now what we have to do is we have to figure out what the x value is. All I know down here though is 4 because y is already 4 equals something plus 3. What do we add to 3 to get 4? And the answer to that would be 1 because 1 plus 3 equals 4. So our x value is not x, duh, Mrs. Lee. Our x value is 1. So here's the solution to the system for number 2, 1 comma 4. Y is 4, and then we plugged 4 in for y right there and had to figure out that 1 plus 3 would get us to that 4, so x has to be 1. For number 3, this one, if you're looking at it, you're like, what is going on there? This one is basically already done for you. If I'm looking for my x comma y ordered pair, guys, it's already there. They tell us that x is 8. So I'm going to plug in 8 for x, and then they tell us that y is -11. So we're just going to plug in -11 for y. And there's your ordered pair, 8 comma -11. There's nothing else to do to that one. That's as low as we can go with it. So look at there. You did your first 3 solving equations mentally. Now we're going to go on into the actual substitution method. So substitution method is basically we're going to figure out how are we going to get one letter by itself. That's the goal. And then once we figure out what that one letter is, we can plug back in and solve it any way we want. So our goal, just like we did a little bit ago, is to take something and substitute it in. You want to isolate one of the letters. X is already isolated right here. So what we're going to do is wherever I see an X, I'm going to plug in 4y plus 14. So wherever we see an X, I'm going to plug in 4y plus 14 into the other equation. So here's 4y plus 14. It goes into the other equation for X. So here we go. We've got y equals -3. But instead of plugging in X, what are we going to plug in? 4y plus 14. and then don't forget to bring down the plus 3. So again, all I did from the first equation is x equals 4y plus 14. So whenever I see an x in the other equation, I'm going to plug in 4y plus 14. Now, if you'll notice in this problem right here, this piece, I only have one variable. The only variable we have right now is y. So we can absolutely take the time and solve for y. And that's what we're going to do. Y equals, distribute that -3 through the parentheses. Y equals -3 times 4y is -12y. -3 times 14, I'm going to pull up my calculator. So 3 times 14, to make sure I do it correctly, is 42. So it's a negative, because negative times a positive is negative. And then don't forget to bring down the plus 3. Combine like terms. So y equals -12y. And then you have -14 plus 3 is -39. So -39. We're going to keep solving for y. We got to get the y's together on one side. So I'm going to bring that guy over there with its friends. So I'm going to do the opposite and add 12y. So we add 12y to both sides. We already had 1. We added 12 more. We have 13 y's altogether equals -39. Now, of course, we would divide each side by 13. And y equals -39 divided by 13 is -3. So in our ordered pair, in our x comma y, we just found out that the y value is -3. We just found out mathematically that the y value is -3. But now what we have to do is we have to go in and find the x value, because we just can't have part of an ordered pair. So now I'm looking back at my 2 equations up there and I'm thinking, okay, I've got to find x. The best way for me to find x is to plug in y into this equation. You could plug it into the other one if you wanted to, but this one already has that x by itself right here. So whenever I see a y, I'm going to plug in -3. So 4 instead of y is going to be -3. So 4 times -3 plus 14. So x equals -12. 4 times -3 is -12 plus 14. So x equals -12 plus 14 is 2. So I put that 2 right back up there in my ordered pair, and now I have a complete ordered pair, 2 comma -3. That's your answer. Guys, I know that was a lot of work. I get it. It took up a lot of space, but hopefully you'll get the hang of it, and I'm going to show you a different method starting tomorrow. So please go back through, rewind the video, listen to what I did again, rewatch things if you need to, because it's tricky this first time around. So we're going to practice it with the second one now. Y equals -3x minus 1, and we've got 4x plus 3y equals 2. Remember I mentioned that in substitution, you want to have a letter all by itself. This time it's the first equation, and y is already by itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to take whatever y is equal to, that -3x minus 1, and we're going to plug that -3x minus 1 in for y in the other equation. So the key is to plug it in into the other equation. So I'm going to bring down the 4x. I'm going to bring down the plus 3, but instead of y, guys, we're going to plug in -3x minus 1, because we were told in that first equation that y is equivalent to -3x minus 1. So now that we have that done, don't forget to bring down the equals to, because that's an important piece there. Notice in this equation, the only variable we have in here is the x. That's the only variable we have to solve for. So we're going to solve for x first this time. So I'm going to bring down the 4x, and then I'm going to distribute the 3 through the parentheses. So 3 times -3 is -3x, plus 3 times -1 is -3 equals 2. So again, I brought down the 4x, I distributed the -3 through. 3 times -3, uh-oh, Mrs. Lee, good thing I went back through that. That should be -9x, and then positive 3 times -1 is -3, and that equals 2. Combine like terms, 4x minus 9x is -5x. Bring down the -3 equals 2. Now we're going to add 3 to both sides. And you have -5x equals 2 plus 3 is 5. Divide each side by -5. And x equals, what is it? What's 5 divided by -5? Oh yeah, -1. So in our ordered pair, we have our first value. We know that the x value is -1. We just found it. We just went through all that work and we found it. Now, the second part is the easier part. I've got to figure out what y is. So I'm going to use that very first equation. Y is already by itself. Y equals -3x and then -1. So y equals -3, but instead of x, we're going to plug in -1, and then we're going to take 1 away. So we plugged in that -1 for x because we just found out that x is -1. So y equals -3 times -1 is +3. +3 minus 1 is 2. So your ordered pair, your x comma y, is -1, 2. There's your answer. Again, guys, please take the time, go back through, double check to make sure you understand everything before moving on. The last one we're going to do together today is this one. This is a big summit question. So when eventually we start taking PFAs, this is absolutely a PFA question right here. I've seen it like multiple times. Notice in both of these equations, we've got y by itself. We have y equals on one side of the equation, y equals in the second equation, already by itself. So this one is actually a lot easier than what you think it might be. For this problem, we know that in the top equation, y equals -x plus 1. So wherever I see a y in the other equation, I'm going to plug in -x plus 1. So basically what happens is you end up setting the two equations equal to one another because both of them equal y. So again, I substituted in this y equals -x plus 1 and for y in the other equation, not the one we were just on. So here's the top equation, here's the bottom equation. Whenever I see a y in the second equation, I'm going to plug in the -x plus 1. So I wrote it right down here. And then I brought down the equals 2x minus 2 on the other side. All we have to do is solve for x now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides because I'm going to bring it over here with its friend. When you do that, I lost one x. I just lost another two x's. So now we're in the whole 3x. So -3x plus 1 equals -2 because that positive 2x and that negative 2x canceled. Again, I got -3 because -x minus 2x is -3x. And then I brought down that plus 1 equals -2 on the other side. So now we keep solving, subtract 1 from both sides. The positive 1 and the -1 cancel. And you have -3x equals -2 minus 1 is -3. Divide each side by -3, and x equals +1. So we have the first part of our ordered pair. We have the x value of our ordered pair. Now, I'm going to look at those two equations and I'm thinking, okay, y equals -x plus 1 and y equals 2x minus 2 from the beginning. I'm thinking that that second one or that top one is the easier one to use. Y equals -x plus 1. You can absolutely use the bottom one. In fact, I'll show you both. Y equals negative, but instead of x, we're going to plug in 1. But don't forget to bring down that negative there. So I bring the negative down. We already know that x is 1 because we found it over here. And then I'm going to add 1. So y equals negative times 1 is -1. And -1 plus 1 is 0. So I know that my y value is 0. I want to show you the second equation, though, to show you that that works as well. So if we were to use the second equation, I'm still going to plug in 1 for x because we already solved that. Y equals 2 times 1 minus 2. Y equals 2 minus 2, which is 0. So what do you know? We got the same thing. So going back to the beginning where we listed it, there's your ordered pair. 1, 0 is your solution. Email me if you need help. We can set up a Zoom. I can go back over these. I can answer any questions that you might have. But guys, I really need you to start getting caught up on some practice sheets now. So this right here is your homework. Practice number 1. Do it. Take a picture of it, email it to me. My email address is leep@parkhill.k12.mo.us. It's listed in Schoology as well. All right, guys, go get some work done. Bye.